Welcome, my friends. I'm your host, Nix, and this is Whispers and Warnings, a podcast where true crime, the paranormal, and magic all come together. Welcome to the first special bonus episode. Tonight's episode is a little more personal, a little more of a getting to know you type story. People often wonder, why witchcraft? They wonder if it's real, how I got into it, if I worship the devil, which is a different thing, and while I am a fan of Satan, I'm not a follower. So tonight, I will tell you all how I found my way into witchcraft, what it means to me, and how it shapes Whispers and Warnings. Even as a kid, I was obsessed with folklore, the moon, and mythology. Halloween was my favorite holiday from the get-go, not even just because of the candy, but more so the spooky imagery and the feeling around that time of year. I guess I was sensitive to the veil thinning even then. All of the reasons I loved Halloween in the 90s, the neighborhoods buzzing with families trick-or-treating, the plastic tombstones, cotton spider webs, and the real carved pumpkins lit with real tea-light candles, the simple thin jumpsuit and plastic mask costumes, the pillowcases full of candy, are all of the same reasons that I still love it today, and are part of the vibe that I'm still trying to capture. But enough about Halloween. In the early 2000s, hanging out at the mall was all the rage for teens and preteens. When I was probably 12 or 13, I was already developing an interest into the occult, but was also in the process of going through catechism and performing my first Holy Communion in the Catholic Church with my family. I went into Borders Books at the mall with some of my allowance and bought a copy of Wicca for Beginners. I can't find the exact copy online, but I still remember the pale purple cover. I took it home, hid it in my room, and began studying the religion while I stayed up late to watch reruns of I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched on Nick at Night. The general basis of Wicca is more defined than just general witchcraft. It's a nature-based spirituality with the worship of a dualistic deity, a goddess, and a god. Some of the core principles center around the Law of Three, a guideline that states that any energy, positive or negative, sent out into the world will return to the sender 3 times. Wiccans can have solitary practice or practice with a coven. There are obviously many other deeper beliefs and principles in Wicca, but these are just some very basic generalizations to give you an idea. The idea of worshiping nature, harnessing my own magic, and performing rituals was extremely appealing to me, but as a Catholic, I was still very much in the broom closet. Somewhere in the middle of high school, around 14, so I guess that would be the beginning of high school, my religious and spiritual journey took a couple of weird turns. I started attending a Christian Bible study with a boy that I had known since elementary school that I had a crush on. I quickly realized that while I liked the boy, I did not enjoy the principles of Bible study. But every Bible-related study that I found myself in was informative and ultimately helped me solidify my beliefs about the Christian faith. This led me down a path of staunch atheism until around age 19, when I attempted to find faith in Christianity again, following some difficult times in my family. I thought that if, quote-unquote, finding God could help them, I should come along for the ride, but again, that was short-lived. I won't get into why the Christian faith and the Bible didn't call to me in this episode, because frankly, we would be here all day, but to sum it up, it just felt very oppressive, and I was a rebel by nature. Do this, don't do this. These all seemed like basic principles of being a decent human being to me, but instead were determinations on whether I was worthy of God's love. Christianity, much like society, felt particularly skewed against women and their rights. In my early 20s, I moved in with a friend that I had known since middle school. I was reminded of the time I had spent at her mom's house over the last decade, throwing huge Halloween parties, carving pumpkins, spending days cooking and baking, decorating the house, having friends over for tarot readings, obsessively watching Charmed and Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I remember the sense of safety, community, and wonder that I had felt there, and remembered my path into the craft. It was at this point that I fully accepted what I believed and started learning more about witchcraft. It was also in the days when the internet was becoming more popular and that was easier to do. And I also realized that Wicca wasn't the right path for me. Many people assume that anyone who believes in witchcraft must be Wiccan, but that's simply not the case. I realized that I had no interest in worshiping any deities. It felt too akin to worshiping the Christian and Catholic gods of my youth. I realized that my beliefs lied in nature and energy, and I started down the path that I'm on now towards considering myself an eclectic kitchen witch. What does that look like in day-to-day life and in practice? I wake up our house every morning. I water the plants, open the blinds and windows, reset the kitchen, make the beds, and tidy up. When I pour my morning coffee, I stir the cream 3 times, either counterclockwise to let something go or clockwise to bring something in. I light incense or use an essential oil diffuser with moon water, depending on the mood. I use ingredients and herbs with intention in my cooking and beverages throughout the day. Ginger is one of my absolute favorites to use. At night, I put the house to bed by closing the blinds, turning on soft lighting, and having gentle music playing. On days when it calls to me, or on one of the Sabbats, I'll often do some sort of ritual to celebrate and mark the change of the seasons. Recently for Samhain, I put a simmer pot on the stove with fresh apples, cinnamon sticks, cloves, star anise, ginger oil, and a blend of herbs from a local metaphysical store. I then did a ritual for the witch's new year, Samhain, that involved letting go of the old and bringing in the new intention for the year. When a sign or spirit is attempting to communicate with me, I approach it with protected curiosity. The snap of fingers in an otherwise empty room, a disembodied voice, a dead loved one coming to visit in the astral plane. The other forms of divination I use are tarot cards and pendulum reading. And here's where my beliefs may differ from that of some other witches. I don't know if these messages received this way are always from the other side or the spiritual realm, but I do believe that they're there for us to reflect upon and consider where we're at in our life and whatever issues we're facing. At the end of the day, witchcraft to me is all about intention. So is magic real? I can't provide you with a definitive answer on that. Nobody can. But what I can tell you is that lighting a candle, stirring my coffee a certain way, and using a tarot card to reflect on my thoughts certainly can't hurt me. Neither can carrying a specific crystal around in my purse or on my jewelry. The idea for a true crime podcast has always been on my mind, but when I started looking at forming Whispers and Warnings, I wanted to incorporate the ways that witchcraft has taught me to trust my intuition, to notice energy, and to see what's unseen. The word witch has had a negative and sometimes downright silly connotation for a long time. This podcast is partially my own tool to show people that witches are the same as anyone else with some of the same interests, and to maybe educate people who are curious or unfamiliar with what the actual day-to-day witchcraft looks like in the life of this one witch. As I enter my late 30s, I finally say the word witch with pride, unashamed of what society might think about it after years of saying that I was into witchy things or woo-woo things. My hope is that one day, more that identify with the craft can proudly call themselves witch as well. Listeners, that is all that I have for you today. I would love for you to share your paths, beliefs, and curiosities with me. Send me a DM or leave me a comment. Also, let me know if you think I should set up an email for this podcast for listener stories, questions, etc. Whether you're witchy or skeptical or follow a completely different set of beliefs, I'm so grateful that you're here walking through these stories with me. As always, drink your water, take your meds if you need them, and stay spooky.